Perfect. Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. I don't know if you hear me well. Is this good? Just hands up is perfect for me. Perfect. Thank you, Eve. Yeah, let's start. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to join us today. It's a Saturday. I know that it's the day when you take off, you enjoy with family, with your friend, but you decide to join us for this session. We appreciate it. Thank you for this session. Thank you for this webinar to join us today. I would like to start by welcome. I'm trying to have like the different language, the most spoken in Africa. Welcome in English, well, bienvenue en français, karibu in Swahili. Sorry for my pronunciation, it's not perfect. I will try to do my best to say welcome in your language. I think that we have someone who talk like one language on this screen. Kabu in Yoruba, Mahaban in Habich, Baka de Zua in Hausa, Baka Nagan Duf. I learned it a lot, but I don't know well, but in Oromo. Yeah, welcome everyone. Let's start first time for the introduction. My name is More Jays. YouTuber. No, I'm not a YouTuber. I'm a co-founder and CEO of the Africa Business Index. Yeah, and now I live in Montreal. We have also my co-founder and my friend from Lantine. It's Yannick Wafo. It's a co-founder of the Africa Business Index also. Yeah, I'm gonna start first time to introduce the Africa Business Index. After that, give the floor to Shannon. Yeah, what is the Africa Business Index? A lot of persons ask me the question about it. Yeah, it is very important to precise that the Africa Business Index is the media group. We are focused on the promoting and supporting the entrepreneurial initiative for the business on the entrepreneur in Africa and in the diaspora, African diaspora. Also about our service corporate, we have a different service. Our first service is the media. We try to write the article, the professional, with the professional, the article and the different success story, you know, like for the business to promote the business, to promote the entrepreneur. It's our main service. Also, it's important for us to talk about the brand. The brand, because if you want to like to go out of the world with your company, it's very important to work hard on your brand. We try to work with the professional to help you to build a strong brand. Also the web development. We think also it's very important for the entrepreneur to be on the social media today. But if you want to start your business, you don't have the time to manage your social media, we can take care of it, of your social media. Also, it's important to talk about the consulting service and training, because I want to make sure that my team have like the good skill, maybe the sales skill, something like that. We can help to build their like customer training for your team, for your company. We also with you to make sure that you understand your market, to give you the best strategy to have a good business plan, maybe, like just like that. Also, it's very important for us. You want to start the business, for example, in Cameroon. You don't know what you want to do, what is the procedure. We can help you to build your company, maybe in Cameroon or in Ivory Coast. And also, it's very important for us is the event, because we think that entrepreneurs need to connect. We will have soon our first Africa Business Forum in Douala in August. It's the event where we give the opportunity to the entrepreneur to connect to someone, like it's very important. Maybe it's your next partner, something like that. It's also important. We have in Zone, we have our first magazine. We focus on the business in Africa, in the diaspora. I'm gonna give you more detail. You can talk about it. That is for me. I'm gonna give the floor to Shannon. It's our moderator today.
Okay, thank you very much, Maral. So welcome everyone and thank you for joining in this session. So I think we'll just kick start it off. So for an introduction, my name is Shannon. I am also a techpreneur by heart. I've done quite a number of things around that, and I think maybe we'll share more as time goes by. So without wasting any time, I think I can introduce the panelists for today. I can start maybe with Eve. So you can just maybe introduce yourself to the audience, tell us about who you are and what you do, and then Art can go next. So Eve, over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Guy. Are you able to hear me?
Mm.
Yes. All right, perfect. Do let me know if you don't hear me at any moment, and then I can make sure I'm audible. All right, so I'm Yves Lionel Kemonye. I'm engineer in software engineering, and I'm also a digital transformation advisor. I'm the founder of Africa Digitalizer. I'm also the founder of the platform named AZCompany.com. That's pretty much talking about the experiences. I have around 15 years experience in IT, been working with Amazon, been working with many big tech company around the United States and Canada and China as well. Yeah.
Okay.
I drop the ball to you, Shannon. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Eve. Nice to know more about you. Art, you can go next. Just tell us something brief about you, what you do.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. So my name is Art. I'm from Cameroon, but presently based in Nairobi, Kenya. With regards to experience, it's mostly investment banking, private equity, and what I do now, venture capitalist. But I'm also a failed founder. I've tried a few things. Some worked, some didn't work. But what I do now, essentially, with the Baobab Network, is to lead a team that essentially invest capital into African startups across Africa. I mean, what they call, I guess, venture capital, or I think in French is capital investissement, something like that. But the whole idea essentially is to invest into companies and help them grow so that they become profitable and sustainable and successful, right? So, and the way we do it is we do it quite early in the value chain. So we typically are the first investor into any tech company in Africa. We provide capital support and then hands-on support and then a bit of advisory in there and there. Right? At this stage, at this moment in time, we have about 45 companies in our portfolio across 15 countries in Africa and in many sectors. So yeah, I'll stop there, Sharon. Over to you.
Okay. Maybe just as a follow-up on that. So you've spoken about investing in different companies in Africa. So from an investor or a VC standpoint, what key factors do you always look at when evaluating what companies are fit to invest in, especially within the tech space?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends really on several things, right? So I'll say it depends on investors. Each investor will have different criteria, right? Which we will typically call what is their investment thesis, right? So now the investment thesis could be something around the geographic focus, right? So maybe they just invest into Francophone Africa or into East Africa or just say South Africa. It could be a sector focus, right? Where they just invest across the board, but just in fintech, or across the board, but just in health tech. Some also have a gender lens focus where maybe they just want to invest into businesses led by women, right? And of course, the other one is the stage focus, right? When you talk about investment, there are different stages. You could go very early, so which is what we do, and it's typically called pre-seed. But there's also another stage called seed, Series A, Series B, Series C. I'm sure you've heard all of these things. So the idea here is like each investor will have different focus. Now, when it comes to us at the Baobab Network, we are pre-seed focused, right? So we want to be the first one to invest. We are sector agnostic, so we do any sectors, and we also country agnostic, right? What really matters, I guess, for all investors anywhere would be the team, the market, and then the traction, right? So the team is it's critical, right? Because they are the people operating on the ground, right? They are the people that get shit done, essentially. So we need to have a very strong team that understand the industry, that understand the market they're operating in, that can build team, that can have a vision, et cetera, right? So the team is always critical. That's why, especially the earlier you go in, because you don't have much data to support. So you really have to rely on the team. I think the second thing is the market opportunity. That's very important because the work we do, it's called venture capital, and it's capital at risk. So essentially it's money that if we lose it, we don't get back. And so it's very important to think about, okay, is this solution viable? And if it's viable, how big is the market? How big is the commercial opportunity, right? Essentially, can there be a lot of people using that solution? And so that's important. Like a quick example would be, if you build something, say, in a small country like Malawi, and it's just for Malawi, that's going to be very difficult for venture capital. I'm not saying this is going to be a bad business, but I'm saying it's going to be a difficult business for a venture capitalist, right? But now, let's say you build the same solution now in Malawi, but actually that solution can go to Zambia, can go to Tanzania, can go to Cote d'Ivoire, or anywhere. Then suddenly it becomes a big thing. And some of these examples are quite easy, right? Think about some of these startups around Africa, one being called Bolt. Bolt, for instance, was built, I think, from one of the, how do you call, Baltic countries, right? I think it's Lithuania or Estonia. That's where Bolt is from. Estonia is a 1 million people population, but Bolt is across millions of markets, especially across Africa, right? That's just one small example. And I think at the stage we go in, the third thing is the traction. By traction, I mean, what have they achieved so far, right? Is it just an idea? All of us as African, we always have ideas. We're always very creative. So it doesn't really matter. What matters is like, what have you done so far, right? Have you started the product? Have you started launching it? Do you have customer? Do you have customer? Do you have people trialing? Have you built a user base, et cetera, right? So essentially, beside the focus, the three things that really matters are the team, the market, and the traction.
Okay. Thank you, Art. I think that's very clear. And now moving on, maybe if just a follow-up from what Art was saying. I know you've told us your journey, you have quite some experience abroad and also building business back home in Africa. So maybe can you share with us a brief of your journey? Why did you, what opportunity did you see to come back home and invest back home in Africa while you're still abroad? So maybe take us through that journey and also what opportunity you saw back home, to start the business back home in Africa, yeah. Eve, over to you.
You're on mute, Eve.
Yeah, sorry. I was saying, yeah, sure. Right now, I'm actually in Abidjan. I'm actually in Cote d'Ivoire right now. So I have a company here, Africa Digitalizer, which is based in Ivory Coast and in Benin. Let's talk about my journey. I've been working, as I say, with many big tech like Amazon. I have identified a lot of opportunity in Africa regarding the tech ecosystem, which bring me here, which is the reason why I'm here. I opened a company here. So when it comes to Africa, we can still, we can definitely see there's a lot of room of improvement regarding IT. The market is very empty, private sector or public sector, we have a lot of things to do. There's still many things to do in terms of digitalization. So the opportunity I found was to start, by the small thing, the day-to-day stuff that people are doing. a company are doing, like activity as process. We need to digitalize those kind of small things. I'm just going to take a small example where the first time I get to Abidjan, I wanted to create a bank account. When I get to the bank, I see around like 200 people waiting on the line. I was just like, oh, is the government really aware about this? West, they have, taking 200 people standing in front of the bank waiting for their turn to get to be received by the advisor. 200 people, if you multiply by the time that they're spending there, it's a lot of money the government is wasting. So it could be very easy if we have a system, if the bank have the system where people can just go to take their appointment online, and they don't have to come in advance and wait there in the line up maybe for 2-3 hours. If they book their appointment online with the advisor, then they know exactly what time they have to be at the bank, and when they get at their time, they can be received, and they can save a lot of time. Not only that, there is a lot of area like that. Like we all, most of us here, I don't know about other people, we African, we know how hard was to get, the study certification. Once we finish to study, even at the Dutch university, you can still find people going to the school, making the line up to take this study certification, which is very basic stuff. Like we can just have a self-service online where students can just log in, download the school certification. They don't have to get to the school. And there is a lot of example like that, million example I can give to show you guys that there is a lot of opportunity about digital transformation across Africa, mainly the sub-Saharan Africa. So that is what bring me to Africa. Basically, I was like, I have to bring something on the table. With many experiences I have with Amazon, working in artificial intelligence department, working as a data analysis, working as a automation engineer and stuff. I have a lot of things to bring back to Africa to improve things. So that is how Africa Digitalizer, the company, was built. It started in Benin, Cotonou, and then we jumped to Cameroon, and now we are actually in Abidjan, where we are operating. We have about 26 people working for the company. We have customer around Africa. So this is a journey in the shortcut and summary. But if you have any specific question in the journey, I can go deeply in.
Okay, maybe you can share a bit more about the challenges that you experienced in terms of how people adopted to the solution, considering all the challenges within the African context, and also government support policies and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a good question. Regarding the challenge, we are facing a lot of challenge in Africa about digital transformation, which is education. Educate people to understand the advantage of migrating to digital transformation. This is the biggest challenge, is educating people. Sometimes, you have, I feel like in Africa, it's like people having headache, but they don't know they have headache. And if someone doesn't know he have headache, then it's going to be hard for you to come, to let him know he have headache. So this is the biggest challenge. For example, when you go to someone, I'm taking example of one company, we try to convince them to have a website. They don't even understand what is website. So the biggest challenge is, first of all, to let him know about what you are proposing. It was a good company, they have, basically it's a gym, it's a gym. They don't have a website. And when people come to the gym, they have to write on the paper and write the time they arrive and sign. When they live in the gym, they also have to write the leaving time on the paper and sign. So we have to go to the gym to convince them to have, first of all, the website, So people can be aware about the gym, because it's a very beautiful gym, well equipped, they have a top equipment, but they don't have a website. So it's hard to convince them to. Unfortunately, the manager, the owner, is old-fashioned guy. So it's more tough to explain him what is a website and why he should have. So the challenge we are facing is basically that, is to convince people to migrate to the digital transformation. But the strategy we have in place to solve this challenge is to always give a trial to people. Like, for example, that gym, put in place the website, and where people can subscribe, subscribe online, where put in the QR code, on the reception, where people can just come and scan. It will automatically load the presence time to the system. They don't have to take a pen and write everything, because I really believe that no one is, reviewing all those papers that people write, coming time and leaving time. No one is checking that. So putting in place a system where the people can just scan when they come in, scan when they are leaving. The system will do all the job. It will register the arrival time of the person. It will also make a statistic, a graph, showing, like, on Monday, this is a graph. This is how many people, the traffic is more on Monday than on Saturday or Sunday, giving them all the statistic. And, the manager is just like amazed when he see that, like, okay, now I can understand what you were talking about. At the beginning, he didn't understand when you're talking about website, system to mark down the presence of people. But when you show him, you give him a showcase, he can see how it works. He can see some beautiful graph showing, the traffic time at the gym, and everything. They are more convinced. So basically, in conclusion, the challenge we are facing is to convince people. And the solution we have put in place so far is to give a trial. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, because even giving the trial, people will still, not move on, probably, because there is also another challenge behind. You are cutting off the business, which is mainly the case of the government, public sector. They can clearly see the advantage, but you're cutting off the day-to-day, corruption and everything. It's not something they want to adopt, because they wouldn't be able to do, to go around with the population. So there's still challenge going on, and we are always thinking about which solution we can put in place to solve that. And yeah, so that's it.
Yeah, and I think you've spoken about something very, very important in terms of because Africa, we have the social and cultural aspect, which really you cannot be able to separate from the business context. I can give an example of here in Kenya. So here predominantly this is where mobile money started, and we are very, like, most Kenyans actually prefer they prefer to use mobile money, let's say, for transactions, and I'm sure in the European and American market, the card payments are mostly predominantly there. And there was this solution brought forward by one of the largest mobile money network operators here, the tap to pay option. Yeah, so it was very fast and more convenient, and they tried rolling it out into the market, but people were just, the market was not ready for the solution. Rather, as much as it was faster, people still preferred the normal SIM toolkit, trying to just the usual way they're used to. Yeah, so as much as the solution was faster, more digital, more inclusive, and all those very good things, people just preferred the old way, and which works for them really. And all their concern was more the security, knowing they've sent money to the right person, other than convenience. Yeah. And with digital transformation, or with most tech startups, we try to solve for convenience, speed, efficiency, and then you find that the market is really not ready, or there's a lot of educating to do, as you have just said. And now this brings me to Art. So as investors, do you usually put, especially if you're trying to invest in a tech startup or evaluating those, like you say, the team, the market opportunity, do you keep into context like the social and cultural aspects of the African market, or how would you advise maybe investors, either individual investors from the diaspora or VC capital firms like Baobab, where you work? How would you advise them really to look at the social and cultural aspect bit of the African market, in terms of the tech solutions?
Yeah, that is a very it's a very good point. It's very important to take in consideration the cultural aspect of the country before starting everything. And yes, we have been making that mistake at the beginning, and I truly advise any other investor that want to invest in tech ecosystem to take care of the cultural aspect. And again, it would depend from country to country. There is some country that are a little bit more advanced than other country. Talking about Kenya, for example, I believe they are way more advanced. For example, like a small country like Chad or Gabon or other country. One example of the cultural aspect we can think of, like I have a person, I have a friend who was trying to invest in cryptocurrency in his country. His country is Guinea Conakry, which is people don't first of all even understand about what is digitalization. Like they don't probably. Most of the percentage of the population doesn't know how to use, computer or maybe a smartphone. So you bring in like a cryptocurrency program there, is you're going way faster than the cultural aspect. So it's very important, to make sure to make a market research, as Morel was presenting at the beginning of the graph, before jumping in. We always have a good idea, but that cultural aspect is one of the key before landing in the country. We have to make a research to understand what the products we're offering, how the population can receive that products. Is that going to fit on the cultural aspect or not? What will be the inconvenience? What will be the advantage? Is that population coachable? Because this is also something they may not have that culture, but they may be coachable. But some population, they may not be coachable for many reasons. So it's very important to make that research. And this is why Africa Digitalizer, we start from the top beginning, like the very, very top beginning. We started, for example, by putting in place the system that allow companies to post the job offer online and the candidate to apply online in the very easy way, which is also another point important regarding the culture. The way we build in the system for Western country should not be the same we build in for Africa, because the level of understanding is not the same. In Europe, for example, when someone go to the website, he will see one icon. He will quickly understand this icon mean menu, like the hamburger icon, for example. They will quickly understand that this mean a menu. I need to go to the menu. This mean that I need to, it mean calendar. This icon mean this. But in Africa, people don't know. So you always have to build the system with a text instead of icon. You can still put icon, but you need to put a text on the top. If you see our platform as a company.com, we also did the mistake at the beginning by just putting the icon. We realized by putting in the background some analysis, and we realized that many people was not understanding the meaning of the icon we are putting on the website. Okay, so we had to go on the bottom of each icon and add the text for the meaning of that icon. But in Europe, people will quickly understand because they are used to it. They are used to navigate to the website for everything, but it's not the same here. So the cultural aspect is very important to take in consideration when we are investing in tech ecosystem in Africa. So that was just a couple of examples to show how investor can go on the wrong way easily without, if they don't take care of the cultural aspect and also the education aspect as well, they can easily go to the wrong side. But if they make a market research, they can go to the right side, at least a good percentage on the right side. And it's also very important to think about which products we want to, invest on. There is some tech products that it doesn't worth it to put it in Africa. Just taking another example, how the cultural aspect can be important. There was a shop in Cameroon, in Douala, that invests a lot of money to buy a robot. The robot that can go and pick what the customer wants and give to the customer. No one need to be in the shop. Like, he want the robot to serve the customer. So people don't deal with that culture in Cameroon because they want to talk to someone, like they want to get to the shop, to touch the shoes and ask a question, talk to someone before they can buy. So you're replacing the people with the robot that will serve the customer. That was a big failure for that shop. It was a big shop. They have, like, the owner grew up in Japan. You guys know how Japan are very well advanced with the tech. So he grew up in Japan and he opened a shop in Cameroon. He tried to automate everything exactly like he saw in Japan by bringing the robot to, to receive people, to talk to people, even to clean the floor and everything. And quickly he realized that is not working for Cameroon because it's not the same mentality, it's not the same culture. So again, it's another example to show how it's very important to take in consideration the cultural aspect before investing in tech ecosystem in Africa. Africa Digitalizer are doing that, is really doing that. And we also advising other tech companies that are trying to come. We have a YouTube channel that is recently opened where I'm personally talking about digital transformation in Africa, advising companies in the public-private sector and also advising the future investor that want to invest in tech ecosystem in Africa. So yeah, conclusion is very important to take in consideration the cultural aspect of the country. And again, it depends on the country. Each country have different cultural aspect. Another mistake I can see is some people, when they come to invest in Africa, they think the reality, if Benin is the same reality for Nigeria, is the same reality for Ivory Coast, which is wrong. Africa is a continent, and each country have different reality. So the culture is not, is not uniform in the entire Africa. So we need to take in consideration the culture of the country, not the continent. Africa is different. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you so much, Eve, for those insights. So over to you, Art. So maybe you can tell us what are the current trends in terms of investment, across Africa within the tech ecosystem, and maybe why most companies will fail, most tech companies actually within Africa fail, and what you think from an investor standpoint they can do in order to succeed. They might have the right idea, the right market, market opportunities there, but still, you see the trends, like most of them really struggle to make even. So what can you give us your insights about that?
Sure. Sorry. So what exactly? Sorry, I phrased a bit. Like, so what exactly in terms of? Can you repeat the question?
So in terms of in terms of the trends from an investment perspective, like how what trends are there in terms of investment within the tech ecosystem in Africa generally, and then why also most of these tech companies fail across Africa despite having their a good team. If you look at the trends after some time, you see most of these companies end up going down, and what you feel just from your perspective that this entrepreneurs can be able to do better in order to succeed and grow their companies. Yeah.
Sure. So I think in terms of I guess it's the big answer, right? But some of the trends people look at, and not just investors, everyone really, it's like the economy, right? Economy matters, so GDP and all these key KPIs. That's also important. That's always important. I think it's tied to the previous question, whereby it's not just 54 countries, but it's 2,000 subculture, and even within a country, you have different trends, right? So I think it's quite important to understand which kind of product do you want to do and where do you want to start it with, right? Because even within the same country, let's say Kenya, where we go for Shannon and I, it's very different. If you take Cameroon, it's very different. So I think the economy is always going to be there, the first one, right? I think when it comes to tech, another one that is quite critical is the technology infrastructure. So by that, we mean, internet penetration, phone penetration, some country, 1 gigabyte is very expensive, extremely expensive. And other countries, it's actually quite affordable, which means if your technology is around data, it's around internet, then the cost and everything is going to be massively different, right? So I think that's another one that is quite important to consider. Obviously, not related to tech, but it's the infrastructure in general. Do you have roads, ports, things so that you can move, you can do trade and all these things? I guess one other thing quite important is SMEs, right? SMEs make the bulk of the economy on the continent. So it's always quite important to really understand how the SME doing, which is tied to sort of government policy and whatnot. But, a lot of the successful tech business in Africa typically are building B2B solutions, not B2C solutions. So it's quite important to understand the stage of the SME economy and how are the small businesses going, right? From the mom and pop shop, but also to the larger, perhaps fleet company that has maybe 100 people, so this is also some sort of criteria. But I guess the other one tied to SMEs is the middle class after all, right? Because we can talk about emerging technology, we can talk about fancy stuff, but if there is nobody to buy it, back to my market size point, then there's no business, right? So the middle class is something I think exciting for businesses now. I want you to start things in Africa. You need to know, do I have a market, right? And if the market is there, is it an SME market? Is it a middle class market? The 1%, they never really are a market because, they can probably afford whatever anyone else in the world can afford. The bottom of the pyramid, perhaps, typically are not really considered because, these are the people that literally living within $1 a day. And so you don't really make it a case. It's for most of the solution. Of course, if you're not looking at a solution for the small scale farmer, then yeah, that makes sense. In terms of your emerging technology, I wouldn't say there are like so many crazy things. Obviously, everybody talks about AI. Yeah, AI is there in Africa, but it's not like that critical in a sense, like, we still have a lot of big problems to solve. And AI will solve a few, obviously, but I don't think it's something you would say it's so trending and so fundamental on the continent. Similarly, I think cryptocurrency, there are applications where cryptos, or should I say blockchain, really, right? And particularly crypto, I think there are a few we've seen over the last few years. I think 3-4 years ago, there was a lot of excitement around crypto in Africa, especially around cross-border payment, when it comes to blockchain, smart contract and things like that. But again, it's so many more, right? Not everyone is really not for everyone. So I think any emerging trend we see globally, we will see some of it in Africa, but the application won't be as impactful yet. And I think the keyword is yet, right? And so what you see is some startup are trying to do things with AI and all, but or blockchain or machine learning or whatever. But more than often, it's just a lot of if statements to make a thing, right? It's not really AI, it's not really machine learning, it's just if statements, right? And we are quite wary. I think as an investor, whenever I see something around blockchain and AI and all, and I'm like, yeah, obviously I don't know anything about these things. I'm not that smart, but I can see when someone bullshit, right? So you can't bullshit a bullshitter. So whenever people talk about all these things, we're like, is it that critical? Is it the part of the technology that makes your business defensible? Because if it is, you need to really make sure you have properly AI. If it isn't, don't throw out the word AI and all, right? Talk about your customer acquisition, talk about your growth acquisition, talk about, how do you make money, etc. So that's those are the kind of things I guess as an investor we sort of worry and then we're aware. Obviously, mobile money is important across the continent, but again, tied to the previous question, which I like to share some photo, but is that mobile money is big in some part of the continent and it's quite small in other part of the continent. And as a matter of fact, in the two largest or even the three largest country in Africa, which perhaps are, I would say, Nigeria and then Egypt and Ethiopia, mobile money isn't as big of a thing. That's just what it is, right? If you go to Nigeria, yeah, mobile money is there, or they call it Momo, I think, but it's not that big. It is there, it's 200 million people, so of course it's there, but it's not that big, the same way it is in Kenya. Egypt, same thing. Ethiopia, same thing, right? And so these are emerging technology in a sense, like, you're trying to see how you can be more cashless, etc. But for instance, in Nigeria, you see a lot of solutions that are cashless, but not around mobile money, more like around cards, card issuance, etc., right? Or bank transfer. So those are the things I think on top of my head. And then you have another part of the question, which I already forgot, Shannon, apologies. Maybe I answered it as well.
The other part was on, why most of them fail, why most tech startups fail. Yeah,
sure.
Generally, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, there's a lot of startups out there. They create something they should never have created because there's no problem to solve, right? That's the first thing. And, I might be ruthless, which is fine, but that's the reality. People start businesses and there's no thesis for it. But now on those that, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is like these days, it's so cool to be a startup founder. It's so cool to be this, but basically people are not solving a fundamental problem, right? And so they typically fail. And the main reason is like, there were no problem to solve, to fix, right? So if there's no problem to fix, what does it mean? It means you don't have any customer. That's what it means, by the way, right? It means nobody's feeling the pain. So there's no customer, nobody's going to pay for your solution. So that's one of the reasons. Maybe not the main, but that's definitely one of the reasons. I think other reason, obviously, is the team inability to get shit done. I think most people are wired to work for someone, and you already have structure in place, processes in places. You have a way to do things. You just come in and then you add a bit of value. But when you're a startup founder, you need to start from scratch. You need to do everything. You need to think about how do you get your customer, how do you acquire them, how do you do the pricing, how do you do your marketing, how do you raise money, how do you pitch to the bank, or versus pitching to an investor, versus pitching to your friend and family. You have to do literally everything, right? And it's not easy. It's very hard. People think it's sexy and all, but it's not. It's very hard. You are lonely. Nobody trusts you. Perhaps if you're a woman, especially on the continent, but also elsewhere, people will be like, oh, you should probably find a husband as opposed to trying to build your solution. So it's a difficult path, right? And so a lot of the time we see some founders not just being able to handle it, and we can't blame them because it's very hard. It's very hard, right? So that's another reason. But then after this few other reason, like one of them, it's around funding. Sometimes they don't have enough funding to actually try because everything I just talked about, it requires money. You've tried to do your acquisition via social media, but actually you realize like it's better to do it with agent. But this is a cost, right? There's a cost to burn on social media. There's going to be a cost to burn on getting agent. Right? You've realized, for instance, that you pricing, you were doing your pricing very basic, like basic, premium, and superior. But actually, the best thing is just one price. Again, it's a cost to take the time to see, to try it, etc. Sometimes you may think that your business was for individual, right? And then actually you start realizing like businesses are the one that actually have a pain, right? I give you an example. In Nigeria, we have big issue with power supply, right? So if you're trying to do a solution for individual for power supply, okay, it's a problem, but they're not going to pay more just to make sure they have a bit of light. But now if you do it for business, it's very different. Because for businesses, if they don't have juice, well, they can't do their business and they will pay, right? But again, for an entrepreneur, switching to that, understanding that it's a lot of time and cost, right? You know, when you think about that, say, time is money, that's literally what it is here. So one of the main solutions main reason essentially is like lack of funding. And that is why organizations like ourselves, Baobab, we want to be there to make sure that we give that money for founders to iterate their solution, pilot their solution, pilot the different things they want to try, and hopefully get to what we typically hear, which is called product market fit, which is essentially like when you have a product that works very well for people, and then it sort of grows by itself. And at that stage, that's when you typically will hear company raising what we call Series A money, right? Because the Series A money is like that. You have a product market fit, and now, so I mean, you have a product that people understand and feel like there is a pain. Now you need money to scale it. You need money to grow it, right? So those are some of the things, but then there's so many things after. There's founders conflict. You could have, and that's important, right? Founders conflict, because, you know, people befriend when it's a small business, but when things start to grow well, to work well, maybe some people are not so much friend anymore. You could have regulations, especially in sectors like healthcare, like financial services. You know, it's quite, the regulation is important. I mean, you know, you could be, some countries are more friendly than others, but you could have a business and it works very well, and then you have a new president or a new law, and then suddenly they say like, this is illegal. And that's it, you just close your business, right? You're not going to go to La Haye in the Netherlands or whatever. Nobody will listen to you, right? So there's always going to be some nuance based on the country, based on the sector, based on the activity, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. And maybe just as a follow-up on that, what do you feel like, considering all the market dynamics you just mentioned, what more can investors do beyond just providing financing or the capital to ensure that most of these companies succeed?
Yeah, I mean, I think financing is not the most critical one. It is one, it's quite important, but the work we do, for instance, right, is to provide financing, which is important, like I said, but not only. We also provide a lot of hands-on support. And I think that's the critical things, right, that is lacking. And I think Yves mentioned a bit of it earlier when he said he has that gym guy that has a business that is quite successful, but perhaps doesn't understand the value of having a website, the value of having social media, and then the value of being able to communicate every day with your customer, right? And so that hands-on support that is provided to the entrepreneur is quite critical. You know what you know, but you don't know what you don't know, okay? And so it's very important to go to founders. Hey, here we go, we give you some cash, fine. But then we're also going to provide you tools to hopefully help your business succeed, right? Sorry, getting a lot of calls as it is a Saturday evening here in Nairobi, Kenya. But so you have a lot of problems. A lot of funders that will need the funding, but also tools to succeed and grow their business, and that is quite important. And that's the job we really do, right? So again, when I said those tools, it could be tools to know how to be a better marketer. It could be tools how to actually do a better financial reporting, right? It could be tools how to acquire your customer better, how to retain them better, how to do a better pricing, for instance, right? How to know when it's time to stop, right? How to make sure that you don't build a product that you as a founder you want to create, as opposed to a product where the people wants to build, right? Essentially, let me rephrase it, right? You successful businesses, you know, you build a product that that resolve a pain point for your customer, not the other way around. And we don't have to go in Africa for that, right? Like so many products, Airbnb for once, it wasn't started as this, right? But they switched their model to actually fit what the customer wanted. GitHub, same thing. So many platforms are like that, right? The founders come with an idea, when you listen to your customer, then you iterate your business, right? And so all that journey, that hands-on support is so critical. And that is, I think, that is the thing that is lacking in Africa, I would say. Because there's money. There's a shit ton of money. And again, the money doesn't come from Africa for this, because, you know, African, they rather spend money in agriculture, in land, in real estate, you know. You talk to them about tech, they run away, right? But there's money coming to the continent from many people. But what is lacking is that support, you know. You need people, if you want to raise $2 million USD, you need to make sure you know what you're doing with that $2 million, because this is not aid. This is not development money. This is not humanitarian money. This is commercial money. People want to invest and expect the return, and that's what we do, right? But for that, we also provide a support around that. Yeah, I think I hope my answer is a bit clear.
Okay, yeah, thanks. That's very clear. Thanks for those insights. And now maybe as a parting shot from Eve, maybe what would you tell an African, maybe in the diaspora or just from here, and any entrepreneur who wants to really embark into business? What would be your advice, you know, like more of like the parting shot now? What would you tell them?
Yeah, what I can tell to people from the diaspora who want to invest in tech ecosystem in Africa is, you know, first of all, the market research is very important, but also do not worry if you have a good market research, and once you get to the country, you find a different reality than what you got as a result from your market research. Don't be afraid, keep trying. Arthur said something very important, which is the capability to switch, to adjust the idea, which is, you know, even us, we have faced that and we did that. It's very important to be agile. Okay, to have the capability to, you know, to adjust your idea, to redirect your idea, to get customer, to fit the need of people. So the diaspora, don't be scared to come to invest in Africa tech ecosystem, but first of all, make the market research. And again, even if the market research was not great, once you get in, you will see the different reality. Feel free to adjust the market research. Don't keep your idea for yourself and, you know, just want to do it. No, adjust it. And also, it's very important for people in the diaspora to come back time to time to get to know the reality of the country, to get to know the culture of the country, because sometimes, you know, we stay abroad for like 10 years, 20 years, and when we came, we think everything stay the same, but no, it doesn't stay the same. You know, things change. The mentality and the culture that was there before is not yet the same. So we have to adjust. So it's very important before coming to invest, putting a lot of money. You need to come time to time, you know, for vacation at least, or also, you know, get in touch with other entrepreneurs that are already inside the country, exchange with them, you know, and know what they are facing. Participating also on some event, a local event in Africa, you know, it helped a lot to be aware about what is going on in the country and so on. So in conclusion, definitely Africa is a place to be, it's a place to invest, but it's not a place where you just walk in the street and, you know, you get money easily, or it's not a place where you will bring your idea and it work in 1 second. No. The challenge is there. I've been talking about some challenge. Archie also have been talking about some challenge that companies are facing. But by networking, by coming time to time, they will be more prepared. So be more prepared when you come in, but you need to come because it's very important, and there is a place for diaspora here in Africa. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Eve, for that. Art, what about you? Your parting shot. Why should investors really look into Africa? Why is it the next big thing? And yeah, just your final words on that.
Sure, I don't think it's just investor, really. I think it's everyone. I typically tell people Africa is not the future, it's now, right? And the idea is, well, you want to be, I think it's exciting to be part of the beginning. It's exciting to be a pioneer, right? And so I'll second Eve, right? I think move to Africa. I think what I'll add to that is like, you have to move with a bit of a background, right? The first is to remove the ego, right? Because it doesn't matter if you've been to New York, to Canada, to the US, whatever, and then coming here on the continent, you have to remove the ego. You need to come with the right mindset, and that right mindset is like, you need to come to learn. And again, it doesn't matter if you were born in the continent, if you left at 18 to go to studies, or if you've never been to the continent, just come with an open and humble mindset of learning, because once you learn and you understand the market you are in, then you can add value with whatever you've learned elsewhere, right? And that's very powerful. Many, many people move back to the continent with the wrong mindset. And then 6 months down the line, they go back. I mean, I always joke, for those of you that know me, I'm quite a teaser here, but a few years ago, you have the year of return from in Ghana. And so many people were like, oh, we're coming back, we're coming back, we're coming back. Yeah, they went back for 2 months and 3 months because they didn't really quite understood the realities of moving back to the continent. For some of you, you might want to come back to the continent, but maybe it's not for you. It's not for you because you have a family. Maybe it's not for you because you don't know how to handle traffic. Maybe because you don't know how to handle chaos. And that's true, right? And that's okay. That's absolutely fine. So I think I'm not going to repeat why we should come to Africa, right? It's just where things are going to happen in the future. But I think for the people that wish to come, you need to come with the right mindset and really learn. And then after learning, you can be very powerful. And to be honest, it's just my story, right? Like, I've spent most of my time, obviously early age in Cameroon, then in Europe, US, Africa, everywhere, Asia. But when I moved back, it was just like learning. And then once you learn, you can really add value by bringing whatever you know from your previous experience, right? And people relate to that. And so I really encourage you, on top of that, changing your mindset if it wasn't that, but also now be curious, right? Don't assume you know everything, because the reality is you probably don't. Most of us, when we are in the diaspora, we come back home for 3 weeks, 1 week in the beach, 1 week in the village, and 1 week in the city. That's what we do. And but the reality is we don't see anything, because we wake up at 10 a.m., we go out at 12 p.m., When you come back next to the continent, wherever you're from, just wake up at 7, 8 a.m. on the weekdays and see the people hustling. Just go see some SMEs, knock on the door and just present yourself. Okay, just fake it. Say like you're looking for a job. People will look at you, you're crazy, but whatever. Do it. Take the public transport. Go to the local pub, not the fancy one. Or go to the local fancy pub or whatever, but go to different things. And then you'll start understanding how the continent is bustling, how people are thinking. You'll start connecting with that youth that we always talked about, but people don't connect to them, right? Don't go with the mindset like, oh, if I send my cousin money for the real estate, he's going to steal it. It's probably going to steal it. That's okay. But there's going to be other thing that's going to happen, right? So really be curious, because that's really going to help you make a difference. And that's exactly what we need from entrepreneur coming back, but also from investor coming back. We can't just go with what you read online. We have to be curious. We have to challenge ourselves, right? So those would be my final comments, Shannon. A bit longer than it's supposed to be, but apologies.
No worries. I think that is very, very clear. Change the mindset. Okay, so I think now we're going to open the floor for some questions. I think some participants had some questions, so feel free to unmute and ask your question, or you can just type in the chat and I'll be able to read them out. So let's just give it a minute or two.
Remember, be curious, right? So if no question, then you're not curious.
Hello. Hi. I'm very much an outsider to this discussion. I came to Africa for the first time last August and decided within a month to stay here because, like Art has mentioned, I see a huge opportunity here, both to help people and you know, to experience the big thing that is happening now. And so from my outsider perspective, I'm doing a lot of reading adjacent to the work that I'm doing in this country. One of the books I'm reading is called Why Nations Fail. And sort of a core component of national success, according to that book, is having a community of people that is sufficiently centralized. As in, for example, in Italy, in the 15th, 16th centuries, the leadership was completely sort of segregated. You had almost sort of a similar tribalism as you have in Somalia today. And that significantly hindered technological prosperity, continuity, growth, etc. I'm wondering whether you guys see any, and I understand this is a very sensitive topic, so please call me out if I've said anything wrong. I'm wondering whether you guys see any opportunity, any sort of window or sort of future for centralizing, maybe in the Kenyan context, for example, all of the tribes so that we don't have this sort of this internal battling or even like I'm very interested in the Pan-Africanism movement as well. I think this is a very important thing in terms, especially in the context of technology. I just love to hear your thoughts on that end. Thank you so much.
I mean, well, first of all, I love anything that is controversial, so you're in the right place here. But I will try not to be that controversial. I think, yeah, at the end of the day, we can look at history to make a case, but we can also look at, is that because something has worked before that it works in the future, or it works now? That's the first thing I would say, right, in terms of mindset. But beside that, I don't think, I mean, the conversation around tribes and all these things is important, and that's the conversation around subculture we talked about earlier, right? The continent is made of 54 countries and perhaps 2,000 subculture, right? And with those, the languages, et cetera. So it is part of it, it's the legacy of the colonizer and whatnot. And I think this is just something we have here, and we move forward from that, right? And as a matter of fact, I think a lot of countries are moving forward from that. Like you have government, you have regional economy groups, the EAC community in Africa, in East Africa. I think you have, I don't know how to say it in English, but you have the West African side, you have the Central African side as well. You have a South African economic activity as well. So, there's a lot of things that are happening when it comes to centralization and to making sure that interests are sort of regrouped. Obviously, you have those things, the African Union, you also have all these other things tied to it, the African trade, all these other sort of, I don't know how we call it, agreement, right, across region or countries. So I think Felix, I think a lot of things are happening, but it's just the pace at which it's happening, right? Things will take time, and so we can definitely think about it, we can strategize around it, but I don't think we are going the wrong way. We're seeing now more and more elections happening quite peacefully around the continent, right? 20, 30 years ago, it's like, something in Africa politics that people are scared, right? But we just saw in Kenya, things were a bit tense, but it more or less went smoothly. We saw the same in Nigeria recently. In Senegal, obviously there's been a few things, but the transition hopefully happened smoothly. Perhaps some country like Cameroon, you don't even have a transition, so you don't have to worry, at least for now. So I think things are going the wrong way, Felix. I think that we are living in a new world, so we can use the past, etc. But actually, as an Afro-optimist, but also pragmatic, I think there's a lot of things that are done the right way. When it comes to tribe and different culture, it's the same everywhere. You can talk about Italy, you can talk about France, but the US, a New Yorker is very different than a Texan and very different than someone from Oregon, right? But there is some commonality that makes it like the country wants to grow. And I think you have it in most of the African countries, if not all of them, right? So that would be my short thoughts on that. Cool. think we have a question from Chrissy.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. So I'm Crescence Biano. I'm listening to you from the US. And first of all, I want to thank you, thank the business, what's the name again? Business Index? Africa Index, yeah, for this initiative, educating us. Thank you to the panelists. You said a lot of things, great things there that really resonated to me. And thank you to the moderator, doing great. Thank you to the whole team for this event. So I have two questions, talking here as a co-founder and also as part of founder of some of the startups there in Africa. We know that one of the things that are very important, I would say even essential when you have a startup or starting a new company, is having a strong team, dedicated team, very skilled team. So being in the tech space, how do you, because one of the challenges that I faced or that we faced is finding good people who have skills, especially in Cameroon. Let's talk the context of Cameroon. How do you, sometimes we find people, then we even train them better and then they leave. What is your strategy? How do you do to find skilled people, good engineers, and how do you keep them, like maintain them and build the product together? So that's the first question. Do you have some website? Do you have a way of doing that? I'm really curious to learn. The second question that I have is, knowing that you are the beginning, like you starting a new, like let's say a startup, and sometimes you need funding, how do you do to hire people and handle the salary part? I see some people giving some options at the beginning, saying you have this part, just to hire them and to keep them. But how, with your experience being there in Africa, how do you handle that part of hiring people and maintain them? Thank you.
All right, I can take that part. Yeah, Chrissy, you asked two great questions, and it's like you're talking to me 2 years ago or 3 years ago. I faced that. I definitely did. And I learned a lot, and I can definitely share with you what I've learned from that. So regarding the first question, how to maintain people, how to find good talent and maintain them. First of all, what I learned in Africa, or maybe everywhere, Aliko Dangote used to say, don't invest in something you don't understand. And this is something that stayed in my mind. First of all, to find a good talent in IT, you also have to be IT, or at least you have to have someone that have a very strong IT skill in your, like very close to you. So first of all, me in my case, as an IT engineer with 15 years experience, I did a lot of screening before, getting the right candidate. Is very important for me. I'm not afraid, to change people every time. You shouldn't be, this is my advice, you shouldn't be afraid to change people every time. Unfortunately, this is why I come to realize in Africa, it's like people come and goes. It's something normal and you shouldn't be afraid of that. But you can definitely handle that. You wouldn't stop that. You wouldn't end that, but you can handle it a little bit. So to handle it, as I said, you need to know exactly what you're trying to hire, like what talent you're trying to hire, what he will do. And now to retain them, is very important for you to have a clear job description in your mind, what they have to do. And you also have to note it down, because unfortunately in Africa, when you hire people, they will be waiting for you to tell them what to do. This is a big thing, like a big inconvenience. If you don't tell them what to do, they wouldn't do. So it should be clear. You should write it somewhere very clear what the person have to do, first of all. Secondly, you should put in place some system to, to control if they are doing their work correctly and to measure the performance. You need to put in place some performance measurement indicator, for people. Now, to retain them, you definitely need to involve them. Like people, they like when you involve them in the work, in the decision, in the ideas. Let's take example of the platform we developed, azcompany.com. I come to realize that when I was doing the analysis of the platform, I was mainly doing it by myself. Like when I want to add a new functionality, I would just sit in my office, analyze the functionality, and just give it to them and say, develop it. And I was having a lot of people, unhappy with that and going out of the company. So when you involve them on the decision, on the analysis, first of all, it's good because they have to bring, as Archie was saying, we learn from them. They will bring many local idea that we don't have as a diaspora, and also they will feel more involved. And also, other thing that I do to retain my employees is to put in place, one good vibe environment. Like on Friday, for example, it's a company days where people wear the T-shirt of the company. We have a croissant that we bought in the office and juice. We make fun, we create like a fun environment. Unfortunately, people in Africa, they like that. It's not like in Europe or in America where people are very serious. They come to work and they are very serious. Africa, they like fun thing, So we do a lot of fun thing on Friday, and sometimes also we organize, football, basketball. So you need to get into the culture and leave the culture of America, Western country apart, and jump to the culture and deal like they want to do. But you also need to be very straight, because if you go further on that other side, then they're not going to do anything. You'll be wasting your money. So it's very important to find the right balance, between being serious and being fun with them. And now it's also important to have some key member in the team that will be giving like a good influence, positive influence to the rest of the team, because I believe you live in the US, you may probably want to travel back and forth just like I'm doing. If you don't have someone, some leader in the team that can influence the rest of the people in a positive way, it may be hard. I remember one time I traveled. When I came back, the office was empty. Like everyone left. Or sometimes once I travel and, like the next day, people come to the office at 11 a.m. and they leave the office at 2 p.m. So you need to have also someone, some strong leader that, understand your mindset, your vision, and, want to lead the team according to what you want. Also, you need to put in place some, retention, how will I call that, benefit. Like if you stay for 6 months, I remember Amazon used to do that when I was working with Amazon. If you stay for 2 years with Amazon, then you're gonna have this amount, like bonus. So you need to put also this kind of program in place, and also put in place some program like if you bring one customer, you're going to have this percentage on the customer. Yes, they are employees, but it works like that a year. So don't just focus on the base salary, but you also need to think about some social advantage you have to give them. And then I think with all this information I'm giving you, it should be good at least to retain a little bit. And also don't be afraid to let people go. Like if you see someone is not doing good his work, let him go. Put him away. Don't be afraid to fire people out. I do that every time. Like if you're not doing what I want, I will just fire you. And that help a lot, giving the right example to the employee. Because if you are I come to realize like after a few times that I have one employee that was doing everything not good. And then I was like, yo, I don't want to fire this guy because he have a family, he have kid. I can't do that. I'm human. I don't want to do that. But unfortunately, what will happen is that other employees will see and they will say, okay, this guy can come late. He can make 3 days without coming and the boss wouldn't do anything. So I'm going to do same. The boss is not going to do anything. So unfortunately, you have to be strict sometimes. You have to have two face. Phone face when it need to be phone and serious face when it need to be serious. So putting in place all these strategies will help you, first of all, get the right talent and also maintain them. Now, talking about the second question, where to find the good talent and how to find the good talent. If you go to our platform, az-company.com, you go there, you have a bank of the candidate, like you have around maybe 300 profile where you can filter job activities and you may find a good candidate there. I'm not doing the promotion of my platform, but I'm just, letting you know that something like that exists, that we are filtering. We have a team that are filtering the right candidate and, ask them to add their profile to the system. And also, I would highly recommend LinkedIn to you to find a right candidate, because usually in Africa, many people don't know about LinkedIn. Unfortunately, but the people that know about LinkedIn are people that are making a lot of research, are going out of the box. Okay, it's very important to have employees that thinking out of the box, especially when you're coming from abroad, you're opening a company. If not, you will have the company, the employees that have very low mentality. So go on LinkedIn, post your job offer, get some candidate there as well. So I'm giving you already two sources of finding good candidate. You have azcompany.com, you have LinkedIn. Those two platforms is highly recommended. And also, as I say, screening is very important. And background check also, this is also important thing. Do the background check. People lie a lot. I don't know about other countries in Africa, but Cameroon, Ivory Coast, these two countries, I have found a lot of liars. Like the fake CV, they put many experiences that they never did. So you always need to do a background check. So call the employee, the previous job, ask if they know them, if they have been working there, do some research about them. It's very, very important to do the background check. And also, especially when they know that you're coming from abroad, be careful about the salary wise, because they will try to ask the same amount that people are charging in the US, because they know you're coming from the US and they think you will be applying the same, the same way in their country. So be careful about that. And they may be asking way than what they deserve. So what I do is always giving 2 months trial, always. There is no employees in my company that just jump in as an employee. It doesn't exist with me. You always need to do like 2 or 3 months for trial. And that trial period, I will be able to evaluate and see if you really deserve what you're asking. And also something very important, pay people what they deserve, honestly. Like I have seen many people from the diaspora, when they come to Africa, they want to pay people 600,000 francs CFA or 800,000 francs CFA, because when they left the country, it was like that. No, things have changed a lot. Pay people what they deserve and they will stay for sure. But what they deserve, okay? Because there's some people that doesn't deserve. So it's very important also, to know your talent, to know each talent, what they deserve, and also pay accordingly. And yeah, this is pretty much all what I have to share with you. And definitely if you need more experience, because I'm not going to take long for this session, but if you need more advice, you can feel free to, to get in touch, and I can share with you all what I have in my hand. Is this helping you, or what I said?
Definitely. Thank you so much. I resonated with a lot saying, I felt good when you said that you also have to tell people what to do, because I feel like you have the vision, right? You know where you want to go, but people don't always have the same vision. So they're just there waiting for you to say, okay, do this, do that. So it's one thing that we that I encounter a lot. So and sometimes
and to solve that also, Chrissy, to partially solve that, you need to, as I say, you need to involve them in your vision. How to involve them in your vision? You need to train them, make sure they understand your vision. You know, sometimes you have to repeat, because once they understand your vision, they can a little bit go in the independent way. But if they don't understand your vision, they may just stay and wait for you. First of all, they have already the culture of waiting you to tell them to do. So again, if they don't understand the vision, it will be worse. So at least try to make them understand the vision. May help a little bit, may not solve everything, but may help.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add a few things, Tracy. I think more of a holistic view. I think when you do a start, first of all, I totally agree with Eve. I think it's definitely, especially on the vision side, right? But what I wanted to add is, I think generally speaking, when you look at startup and hiring, there are a few things you need to, there's a certain type of people you need to hire, right? And I think the first thing is those people need to believe in your business. And again, what you just say in your vision. It really doesn't matter where they're from, whatever, but they just need to believe in what your vision is. You know, from a user standpoint, we call them the early adopters, you know? So those are the people that will go to the website. Those are the first people that use Facebook, that use Uber, Lyft, whatever, right? But when it comes to working for those organizations at an early stage, and same for Africa or even Cameroon, you know, we don't have any startup in Cameroon, but we've talked to so many startups in Cameroon. You need to have people that believe in that solution. And it starts with the founders, right? But if the founders are overseas, like you said, you need to make sure you have someone that is really strong and can really manage people, right? But you need to have people that believe in your business, that actually understand the product, that they need almost not hit just for the money. They hit because, fuck, this is so cool, right? Okay, that's number one. Number two, you need to have people that are generalists. You know, I swear a lot, right? But you need to get people that get shit done. That's what you need, you know? Because especially if you're in the US and they're on the continent, et cetera, you need to have people that actually can get things done, not just calling, waiting for you, et cetera. And that's just important. And they are those kind of people, right? And that's important. And then of course the wage, and what I think you've mentioned, the ESOP, right? Which is to provide equity. Those you can do if you can, but otherwise you just pay the people well, right? And I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, some people, they might be very good to work at Microsoft because it's a structured company, it's a big company, there are processes, but they will never do well into a startup, which is more chaotic, which doesn't have any processes, etc. So if you are hiring for someone, say in Cameroon, and then for you in your resume, because you see someone has done 10 years at Orange or whatever company, then you think these are the right person, I will argue and say that's probably not the right person. For one, that person is going to ask you a lot of money because they have 10 years of Orange, but actually, they don't have that experience, that context, which is working in a startup that is chaotic, working in a company where you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know if you're going to make a sales tomorrow, right? And I think as founders, it's very important to have this kind of people, to understand the kind of people. Just don't go by, oh yeah, 10 years there, et cetera, right? So that's very critical. But the other thing I just wanted to mention when it comes to team is, yeah, the best way is to hire slow and fire fast, right? I'm just going to say it. I think that's exactly what Yves said. Take the time to hire, but be very quick at firing people. And that's just what it is, you know. It's not about emotion, it's just business here, okay? One thing though, from the founder standpoint, that is very important. I mean, there's many types of founders, right? But I think typically you look at the operational founder, the technical founder, and then perhaps the visionary founder. And these people are very different, right? The operational one, I understand, probably spent 10 years, 20 years in the industry. The technical one is the coder, you know, he knows how to code, he's like a geek. And maybe the visionary one is like, he has his vision, he knew how to sell it and pitch it. Most teams, when they have co-founding team, they have these three profiles together. Sometimes it can only be one. But the reason I'm mentioning that is like if you are based in the US and you are hiring on the continent, make sure that that person that is senior have these either operational views, technical views, or visionary views, right? So that people can look at them as opposed to wait for you. But because if you don't have it, that's bad. You're not going to go anywhere, right? So those are the few things I just wanted to add to on what Eve mentioned.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Or what you have been saying, Atu, was a good thing to add. And the small thing that I want to add, Chrissy, is the screaming part for the beginning of the recruitment process is very important. Just taking with you some example that I've been facing. We sent email to one candidate inviting for the interview. First of all, the candidate didn't see the email. Okay. And 2 days later, the candidate will call and say, hey, I just missed your email. This is just no go with this candidate, okay? Like I have like some thing that I want to see. During the interview process also, I usually ask about what you learn about the company. Some people, they just come and tell me, I know that you are selling the smartphone. I just say, no, we can stop the interview from here. Like you don't really, you need to be like, it's very important. Don't waste your time because you may have like 100% of candidates, you just take 5, it's fine. Don't worry about that. So I've been facing a lot of change, or even some girls that come to the office and they just want to go all the way to get the job. No, don't job with anything. Just put them outside and that's it. So you need to be very serious also in the recruitment process, and you need to feel something. You need to feel it like this person, he come prepared. He know about the company. He have read, at least he's curious. He have read about the company. He read about what you're offering. He's able to talk about. Then you can definitely see this is a fast thinking candidate. This is a dynamic candidate. So all these things is very important, to check at the beginning. Sometimes I even, I just send the invitation and the candidate just arrive in the office. This is already a good sign for me. But some other candidate will call you. Where are you located? I will tell him, write Africa Digitalizer on Google, follow the map. What is Google Map? I close the phone and you finish. So you need to be very serious on that, because we are a tech company, right? If you don't know how to use Google Map to come to the office,
the basic.
What am I doing with you? So you need to be very serious on that. It's just what I wanted to add.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We need hustlers.
Yes, true. Thank you, Chrissy, for your question. And I think because of time, we'll close that section right now. So I think maybe if you can just maybe share your LinkedIn profiles on the chat for if anyone wants to connect with you, or if they have follow-up questions. And really, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your insights. I think all of us have really learned a lot. And also for the participants, thank you so much for for your time and for taking your time in to listen to all our panelists had to say. So I think at this point, I'd like to invite Morel for the closing remarks. Yes, so thank you so much.
Yeah, just
Morel, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Art. Thank you, Eve. Thank you, everyone. It was a good session. I think we will have another session because just stay connected on the social media. We have our website there. We're gonna speak about our next session. We have another topic. Like if you have any suggestion, just write us to info at theafricabusiness.com. Don't hesitate to contact us. You have my WhatsApp here. Don't hesitate. We can discuss. If you need to speak maybe to Eve, to Art, to Shannon, don't hesitate to contact us. It was a pleasure to speak with you.
So, thank you for having us.
Thank you, Art. Thank you, Eve. Thank you, Shannon.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you to the team. That was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.